Now, we first saw this car at the Geneva Motor Show in 2015. Then it was attracting a lot of attention at our very own Auto Expo in February 2016. It's taken Tata a long while to get this car out on the road. They've thrown a lot at it, but the Hexa is finally here. Now, this is their big bet on moving upmarket. It's their most premium car yet, but is it good enough to attract the premium car buyer? That's what we have to find out. It's a strong-looking vehicle with a very aggressive front. Dominating the nose is the dual-coloured bumper with the massive signature honeycomb grille underlined by the bullhorn-shaped chrome garnish and flanked by the projector headlamps. A large air dam is encapsulated in a chrome outline and creates a tough jawline. Along the side, the 19-inch flat-surfaced alloys look too sunken into the wheel arches, and from this profile, it's got more of an MPV look, which gives away the fact that it's based on the Aria. The rear bumper has chrome step plates, and the wraparound LED tail lamps give it some zing. It does have presence, that's for sure. And with the traditional ladder-on-frame construction, it sits quite high off the ground too, with a clearance of 200 millimeters. The interior of the Hexa actually looks quite rich and premium. The front dash looks well finished. You've got leather, you've got soft plastics. There's a nice little recess on top for storage. You've got dual glove boxes. One is a chiller. There's been improvement on equipment as well because the screen has been made less reflective. The fonts and everything have been made brighter. One thing I find lacking is storage space in the central area. Here's where one would normally throw their phone or glasses or something. There's only a cup holder, although you do have the box. But the Hexa also comes loaded with equipment. The Hexa is packed with equipment to woo the premium customer. And it's quite a list. The boot with all seats up is just for small bags, but can open up to 671 litres of space with the seats flipped down. However, when we did try the variations, we noticed a few flaws. The last row really doesn't flatten out because it fouls with the side cup holder panels, and the 60 split in the center row on the bench configuration doesn't really flip up entirely as it fouls with the AC central console. So, fitting in big suitcases will not be all that easy. So it's time to try out that crucial third row. Little bit of a fidgety handle to put the seat back down, but the flip up is quite easy. I'm going to pull the seat up and see just how much room there is. Well, I have to say that for someone my size, it's pretty good. I can tuck my feet under the seat. I still have enough leg room. The recline angle is nice. So if you put me in here for a short while, not too bad. But I have a feeling taller people like Nick Hill are going to have a problem. So let's get him in here and see how he fits in. You have enough leg room, but
this is going to be an issue.
All right, so small people like me, yes. Big people like him, no. The Hexa is powered by the 2.2-litre Varicore diesel power plant that has been tweaked a bit and produces 156 HP and 400 Nm of torque. It's offered with a 6-speed manual and a 6-speed auto as well. Let's begin with the manual. As you can see, I really have to haul myself into the Hexa. It is quite high. And for someone as short as me, I have to raise the seat to the highest position, which isn't really quite high enough. Maybe lower the steering. I still feel that the binnacle is a bit high and, like I can't see the corners, but let's get on the move and see what it's like. Though it took me a little bit of a while to settle in, the Hexa didn't feel as large or as daunting once I was behind the wheel on the move. In fact, it was quite easy to drive. It's a nice, torquey, responsive engine. I'm going uphill now. I'm in third gear and I just put my foot down, get some move on. I really don't need to work the gears much, and that is a good thing because if there's one weak link, it's the gearbox. It requires a very firm hand. And that's an understatement. Should you need to do a 3-point turn, you will find yourself fighting with the gearbox to slot it into reverse. The gate is so far out that it almost always slots into 6th by mistake. The gearbox is generally notchy too, so slotting into gears is really not a smooth affair. But the good part is that the lag is only below 1500 RPM. After that, it pulls really cleanly, so you don't have to use the gears much. The clutch too isn't the most progressive, so at crawling speeds, it gets slightly jerky. But once you pick up the pace, the engine has a nice strong pull. In fact, it's a great cruiser. Now, going back to U-turns and parking, it's a bit cumbersome and heavy at low speeds, the steering. So parking and turning is not the easiest. But once you're on the move, it lightens up and it's actually quite good. It gives you a good sense of security, whether it's around the corners or even at a straight line. It's got a good on-center feel. Though there is a fair bit of roll, the Hexa actually gives you a sense of security around corners. The front end dives in nicely, leaving you feeling sure-footed. The tires offer a good level of grip as well, and when you push a little harder, they too don't lose their footing. What doesn't give you a sense of security, although, are the brakes. They feel a little wooden. Now, if you have to stop in a rush, you'll find that it's not so confidence-inspiring. I would have liked a little bit more bite from the brakes. But it's more to do with the modulation of the pedal than the actual braking power, because the V-Box test showed it came to a halt reasonably well. Now, since we did have this new Super Drive mode to test, we decided to throw some things at it. So we selected the rough drive mode and went off the beaten path. And what I find is that it creeps quite well. Actually, I've got my foot off the accelerator. It's creeping over the rough patches. And it pretty much goes over quite a lot. You don't have to be worried about grounding it. Yes, the ground clearance ensures that you can really go off the trail and not really have to worry. The off-road mode works reasonably well using traction control and engine modulation to help you get out of sticky situations. As for the other modes, Auto, Comfort and Dynamic, it was really hard to tell the differences between them. Overall, however, the manual gearbox left us with the impression that it was a bit cumbersome to drive. So it was time to switch over to the Auto, which came as a pleasant surprise. The automatic actually feels a lot lighter on its feet. It feels easier to drive. This transmission made the Hexa feel just that little bit more agile. The 6-speed gearbox makes light of driving. It's smooth. You don't really feel the shifts, and it's quick to respond. In fact, sometimes we think it's a little too quick to respond, especially when you're out on a highway, you're cruising along. Just dab the accelerator and it will shift down, even though it really doesn't need to. At high speeds, even though there is adequate torque to continue, or even on inclines, the box will shift down at the slightest pressure to the throttle. But it soon realizes it's at the right revs for the next gear and shifts back up again. But this is not really a criticism, because overall the Auto feels really good to drive, and the responsiveness is actually a bonus through traffic or when one needs to overtake. The Sport mode works well too, letting you hold the gear to the red line. Now, having had the full front seat experience in both variants, it was time to be a passenger. It's a nice spacious backseat. There's lots of legroom. You sit nice and high. Visibility is good. So it's quite comfortable here. But if I have to complain about one thing, it would actually be about generosity, because they've been a bit too generous with the base of the seat, and it's long. So it cuts into the back of your knee, especially if you're a short person like me. I'm far more comfortable with my legs stretched out. Luckily enough, there's enough space to stretch them out. Apart from that, the seats themselves are really comfortable and well cushioned. The side bolsterings hold you in well, and to keep you comfortable, there are central and side vents for the AC and sun blinds too. Long journeys in this back seat will be easy ones, especially when you factor in the ride quality. We're on quite a bumpy section of road now, and I have to say that I'm quite impressed by this ride quality. It sort of smothers everything in its path, doesn't let much filter through to the rear passenger. You feel quite isolated and comfortable here. Whilst talking of isolation, it must be mentioned that the cabin is well insulated too, making the overall experience feel quite refined. Now the Hexa will start their bookings on November 1st and deliveries will start January 2017. So right at the outset, we said that this was Tata's big push into the premium segment, and they have thrown a lot into the Hexa. It's loaded with equipment, some of it that we don't even see in classes above. So yes, it is plush. It's comfortable not only in terms of space, but in terms of ride quality too. It drives well, and it has that practicality of the 7 seats. So it has a lot going for it. But if there's one thing that we could pick on, it's the manual, which is a bit cumbersome to drive, and the automatic would be our pick of the two. We asked ourselves at the beginning, is the Tata Hexa good enough for the premium car buyer to consider? Well, our answer would be an emphatic yes.